Good night. AJ Mahar here. Are you really ever valued by a person with borderline personality disorder? Well, commenter commented on the video I did, BPDX contact responding only is not no contact. And the commenter said, I have an important question. I happen to think most questions are important, by the way. Not that I can get to them all, but I get to many more than the average YouTuber does. If my girlfriend valued me, why did she keep ties with her ex? He never treated her well like I did, says the commenter, and has nothing going for him. I even proposed to her. We had an engagement party with all our friends and family, and a month later I found out she was cheating on me with this guy who was before me, says the commenter. Now they're together again, and I ended things. I really don't get how she could be interested after they fell apart last time before me, says the commenter. Well, here's a really big piece of reality that is, with the highest percentage of people with BPD, way more true and untreated, etc. They don't value you because, as I'm always saying, and sorry for the repeat, ladies and gentlemen, they don't see you, they don't hear you, they don't understand that you're a separate person from them after, the idealization phase and what that's all about. So they relate to you from an unconscious place of how you can be, they hope, there for them, to anchor them, to regulate them, to help them, as a parent would, or as a parent that they didn't. So that's a big part of why people with BPD have all these relational issues and attachment issues, etc. But they don't value you for who you really are. And that is really hard for a lot of people to hear. So often, and I hear this more and more from clients all the time, and I've been working with people for 34 years to help people heal and recover from these relationships, and out here to help you if I resonate with you. But I hear so often from clients that the person with BPD that they were so devoted to, so loved, so believed in, and then so wanted to help and so wanted to rescue and get them into all of what I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, but that they were being cheated on often from the get-go, maybe didn't know it, how borderline's a monkey branch. But aside from borderline monkey branching, there's also the reality a lot of people with BPD, they do stay in touch with some exes. And why would that be? Because a lot of their exes don't really ever get into trying, maybe they don't try to introspect, learn more, to realize they have codependency, to realize how they're being used and abused. Because I've had lots of clients describe that the person with BPD in their life is still contact with several exes, and or has talked to them about how they had break up with the ex, devaluing always their exes, but then saying how they have been back with exes prior to. A lot of people with BPD are telling people this, but when you're trying to love the person who you think they are, you're not really paying attention to all that. Or when they mention BPD, if they do, you don't even know what it is, because a lot of people don't until and unless you end up trying to love somebody who has it, and then you're in so much pain, you start Googling something, and then you end up with information, and borderline personality keeps coming up all over the place. So they really don't value you. They often will go back to exes during a relationship, even in the beginning, or have somebody else and you, and unfortunately be really dishonest about that. And I have a puppy here who's doing crazy things. So they don't really value you. So this is how the ties that they keep with exes aren't like attachments, because people with BPD have disorganized style of attachment. So that is a whole other category from the other types of attachment styles, all of which that aren't secure attachment. But what it really means for people with BPD and disorganized attachment is they don't know how to attach, and they really don't know how to love, And they might really think they do, but they don't take in your love. They don't trust your love. They get into a relationship with you and you're head over heels about them. And you may rightfully so, although a lot of people with codependency just kind of lose this in these processes of what's happening in the relationship, because you might have low self-worth and low self-esteem, but you might intellectually know that you are a woman or a man of high value. I mean, I don't think that's the best way to describe this stuff, but a lot of people using these words out there in the, quote, dating world, unquote, which the cluster B, being with a cluster B or dating a cluster B or being in a relationship with a cluster B or finding another cluster B after you get out of that relationship in the dating world, it's not really helpful to think about it in any way that would relationships and dating and how you're valued and how valuable you are. And I'm not talking about you're not valued, but the dating lingo of be a high value man, be a high value woman, whatever that's really about, because I think that's also a product of narcissistic culture. I would say know who you are. Heal yourself. I'm out here to work with people who want to heal from these relationships, codependency from childhood. And codependency is a response to something that hurt you in childhood. Many people don't know what it is, but this also drives a wounded inner child unconsciously inside of you to be really more attracted to a chaotic, dramatic person, often with cluster B, or BPD in particular I talk about here. And the thing is, because the wounded inner child inside of you is trying to look for repair from somebody who in one way or another, to one degree or another, or full on, just represents, is so like your mother or your father. And it's not always that simple for people. So what I'm trying to say here is they really don't value you. This is another reason not only why they cheat, they monkey branch, they go back to exes, maybe when they're with you, maybe when they give you silent treatment, maybe when they give you that line about, oh, I just need some space, because that line is usually the beginning of the end for sure, because people with BPD don't, quote, need space unless they're up to something with somebody else, because generally they're not able to stand their abandonment fear if they're not kind of relating to somebody or having somebody to lean on, and really, to put it bluntly, somebody to use, somebody to hopefully help them regulate, someone to make them feel real, someone that they can try to seek identity through. So you see, they're not seeing you and they're not relating to you. So people put, I understand, and the younger people are too, and whatever age, people put so much on physical appearance and dating, right? And we live in a narcissistic culture. It doesn't mean everybody's a narcissist, but it does mean that a lot of things that weren't the way they are now in the world, I'm sure people still always, you're looking for somebody you're attracted to, of course, whatever that might be. Believe it or not, some people are attracted to heavier people, some attracted to thinner people, some attracted to only 10s, whatever the case, right? But what I'm trying to say is, even if you yourself are a 10, and you might not believe in yourself as a person with codependency and have a lot of issues, but you kind of do know that you deserve, like you should be being treated like you are a high value individual. Though again, I don't want to use that language. What would that mean? You should be seen and heard for who you really are, appreciated and respected and trusted for who you really are, for your, everything from how you look to, but more importantly even than if you're a 10 and how you look, or you're outstanding, you're handsome, you're gorgeous, female, whatever. What about what you have inside? You want to share your life with somebody. You might want to have a family. All the things that people want in their life and why they want partners and relationships. So don't just think of high value versus low value. I think it doesn't help anybody, but this person even proposed to her. I hope they're realizing that that's dodging a bullet, but I mean, it's so painful. It's hard to get to just that, place of understanding that without it still hurting. And so why would, this commenter is wondering why his borderline girlfriend at the time, yes, why would she go back to an ex and guy who's got nothing going for him and all that and not want to be with the commenter? People with BPD do this all the time, by the way. I really want you to understand this. If you're a successful person, if you're a really good-looking man or woman, or maybe not a 10 yourself, but pretty decent, you know what I'm saying? And or you shouldn't put all your eggs in that basket regardless. Maybe you just have a whole lot to offer somebody, to love them, to respect them, to trust them, and you want that to be mutually reciprocated to you. Of course you do. That's what healthy relationships are comprised of. So the question that this commenter asked, it kind of also is like, I've had so many clients express this to me too. I see them on camera. I see what they look like, right? And it's not all about looks, but this is the way the world runs. And the thing is, they'll say, well, like, I'm a decent looking guy. I'm a pretty woman. I'm a decent looking woman, and they are. How come I got ghosted or discarded or whatever the case, broken up with, my borderline, when like they're with this guy who's like they're living on the street with, and they're pushing, substances. Well, this happens, and it's also how borderlines can, not so on purpose, go from they're either, I don't want to say attracted to, because that's not the right way to put it, but emotionally, the two types of people that borderlines are going to end up with are codependents or narcissists, sometimes a psychopath, but not healthy people. And so what happens with that is, often a lot of people with BPD are so, they might be self-harming. They hate themselves. Really, they do underneath it all. They don't know themselves. So they'll go get in a relationship with a narcissist or somebody who's really down. I'm not saying all narcissists are down and out in their life, but the thing is, in some ways maybe. But they will go with people that are maybe codependent, maybe not so narcissistic, that are like just have nothing going for them whatsoever. And if you compare them to the way that you look, probably not like anything like you got going on. But this is part of the self-sabotage of people with BPD. And whether a person looks as handsome or beautiful as you do, and the other person doesn't, or they go back to an ex, you wonder how come they don't care about that at that point. Well, people with BPD are so self-sabotaging. They feel so unworthy. They're looking and often unconsciously unaware of what they're really needing, which is to be loved more like a child, in the sense of be taken care of, be looked after, be regulated, which people can't even do for them. And so when they do get with narcissists who really treat them badly, or people who are just down and out in their life, treat them badly, or don't have anything to offer them, you got to remember what's going on in the psyche and the psychology, and with the lack of self in people with BPD, the self-sabotage, the impulsivity, all these things that that's unhealthy about them, obviously. And so why they would put stock in an ex again or another person, and you're like confounded, like, wow, I like a lot of clients tell me, like, they have a lot of means financially. They want to help this person, maybe it's an ex now or still a partner. They're trying to get them in therapy. They're trying to help them, or even if they're been ghosted or discarded, they're still trying to contact them to tell them, like, I'll pay for your therapy. Some people are subsidizing exes because they don't want them to hit bottom. And I mean, is that love? You may really love this person, what that means to you in a kind of broken, codependent way. But is it really love to keep trying to enable even a BPD ex? Or paying for them? Because this is happening for, well, maybe some women with men with BPD, but a lot of men with women with BPD. And there's many reasons why people feel they need to do this, but it's still self-abandonment. And you're keeping the borderline, you're in between them and their bottom, and hopefully that the bottom wouldn't be very tragic bottom, so that they could maybe go on and find their own way to some help, but many don't. And so back to this comment, a person with BPD would go through a whole engagement party and the whole 9 yards and be off, monkey branching or cheating or back with an ex, etc., or a combination of all those things. because they don't ever get satiated by anybody, because it's impossible to satiate their wants, their needs, and they're all over the place, dysregulated emotions more often than not. So please don't blame yourself for that. And this is where people get into the comparative narrative. You've been ghosted, cheated on, you get thrown aside for an ex or some person who's really down and out and has nothing to offer when you have all kinds of things to offer. Just know that's about the borderline. It's not about you. A commenter was saying now she's with the ex again, so he had to end it, and really doesn't get how she could be interested after they fell apart last time before him. It's repetition compulsion cycles unconsciously with people with BPD, going back to somebody who at some point represented one of their parents unconsciously, where they parked their object constancy and sought identity through somebody. That sort of familiarity with people with BPD not only breeds the contempt of they don't know how to relate to people, and they take, and they don't give back. So it's that, and it's the familiarity that breeds contempt, especially for people with BPD, and perhaps many of the people that have been with them. So just know this idea that, and a lot of new YouTubers with, in the dating area of stuff, and they're intermixing things about borderlines and narcissists and who you should want back and try to get back and why and all this nonsense. That really, this idea be a high value person. I think it's really in the empath community, but be a high value person. It's not what the problem was. It's not that you're not worthy. It's not that you're not a very valuable person or a person that a lot of people would want to date or fall in love with and have a family with you. It's not really that, but it's where you're at in the brokenness of your codependency. And I'm out here to work with people who want to know more about that and heal that. People with BPD are needy and clingy and whatever they're looking for, and they want everything that they need or want in any given moment. They want it right then. They want it yesterday. Doesn't matter how much you give, how great a candidate for a relationship you are, how much you have to offer versus Joe Schmo who has nothing to offer, but there goes the borderline over to Joe Schmo. It's really important. People with codependency do this, but please try not to be in the comparative narrative of how could I possibly have lost this person because now they're with like that person. Well, it has nothing to do with that. And so you should be working on your self-worth and self-esteem for sure. You should know who you are. And many people do know all they have to offer and maybe just need to heal other things. But don't ever make the mistake of thinking that it was something wrong with you or something you couldn't give that makes a person with BPD go to a person who's got a lot less together than you do in whatever areas, the puppy, that might entail. And so, like, maybe you're doing really well financially and you have your own business, etc. And then they go to somebody who's got, like, no money and, like, what's up with that? Hey, puppy. And so just know this is borderline sabotage, impulsivity, etc. And when they make these sort of down moves, could I put it, to people that have even less going on or whatever the case, don't feel like that's something wrong with you. It's not. It's the fact that nobody can satiate all of the borderline's needs, no matter how hard you try, and that all the trying that you do in trying to like make them happy, meet all their needs, stop the roller coaster of conflict and the like, what happened now? I don't know what's going on now. Why are you mad at me now? All that stuff you go through, you need to realize it's about them. And why are you there and how'd you get there? That's what you need to figure out, how you're going to get out of there. But just know that no human being, whether they go dating down, okay, or cheating down to the ex or another person. That's not about you, but people with codependency do take it like it is about them. Like, what did I do wrong? How could I have driven him or her away to, like, they went to that kind of person when I have so much to give and I love them so much? All of that goes to the fact that no matter what you're giving, the borderline can't receive it. Maybe sometimes, maybe for a while. But they really can't take it in because they don't feel worthy. They don't know who they are. And so whether you jump through a million hoops for a person with BPD in dating or relationship because you love them and you're loving the them that they really aren't, but who you thought they were, it's not your fault when you can't please them because they're unpleasable, because they're insatiable, because they have a hole in the middle of themselves where their self should be, where the self should be in them. It's an abyss. It's just an endless, deep, dark, like rabbit hole or like quicksand with no bottom to it. So no matter how much you've tried to give, no matter how much you did give, it's not ever going to be enough for a person with BPD because they're insatiable. They don't receive it. They don't trust it. There's all the chaos. There's the splitting and the back and forth. And none of that is about you. And then when they cheat down or go off and date someone else after they ghost and discard you or whichever way it goes, try to stay out of that comparative narrative because you're going to be so hard on yourself. You're going to be hurting yourself going like, why in the heck wasn't I enough for them? Or I enough for him or her? When that's not the case at all, because nobody satiates the borderline, especially the untreated borderline. And this is why often they will just have a plethora of the same kind of relationships. And if they don't get significant treatment, and even with what might be significant, I'm talking really long-term treatment, nothing about that changes for them. So they are insatiable because they have a hole inside and there's no self in that hole. Nothing can stick in the hole. Nothing can fill the hole. So it's not about you. It's about them. It hurts you and it wounds you. But try to stay out of the comparative narrative because you'll only just be beating up yourself even more. And you're probably already, or you were, or you might still be to a degree, you've been in enough agony. The whole thing is way too painful. People are so confused. But borderlines don't value what you give. They don't value who you are. They don't see that. They don't hear that. They don't trust that because of their issues and because they are trying to seek identity through you, and you represent so often a parent, which is not a positive thing with a borderline, because that's just going to be something else pulling away at all the relational difficulties and impossibilities they already present in relationships. So out here to work with you. If you resonate with me and you want to start learning more about how'd you get where you got to, are you still stuck there with a person with BPD, or have you been ghosted, discarded, or did you break up with them? But you can't stop ruminating. You're still watching their social media or hooving. You're not over them by any means, and you keep thinking it was your fault. And you could have done this, and if only you'd have done this, that. This is how people torture themselves, and it's not about that at all. And you need to focus on you and all that happened to you and all that they didn't give to you, no matter what you were offering. Some people have offered borderlines, like many clients I've worked with over the years. They practically offer them the friggin' world on a silver platter. Well, unfortunately, when you do that with a borderline, they get engulfment fear. Then they feel like you're controlling them, but you're just trying to give and be kind and meet their needs. And they'll take off because of that. They'll discard you because of that. So just know, when borderlines cheat, monkey branch, whether the relationship is over or not, they're ghosting, discarding, maybe they're coming back to you, going to someone else, and the vast difference just annihilates you. inside because they keep going to people that have nothing going for them, who can't give them anything like what you could give them emotionally, financially, just who you are or how you're capable of loving. But you see, even with codependence, in that your love, there's something glitchy in there that you need to learn more about so you can make yourself and your love healthier. But don't get into the comparative narrative of, why didn't she value me? Why didn't he value me? I had so much to offer. I was always giving, giving, giving. And they take. But like young children, you give them a new shiny toy, and pretty soon they're going to break it. They're just that unaware. They're just that empty. There is no self there. So like a healthy young child would get an amazing, I don't know what kids like today, but amazing shiny toy, whatever that means now. And they would treasure it, right? And even though, we all know to a certain extent when we've got toys at Christmas when we were kids, that, the novelty, right? Gotta play with this forever or whatever. And then, of course, it wears off some. But with people with BPD, you are their shiny toy until you're not their shiny toy. And when they capture their shiny toy, no offense to you, unconsciously they do this, they don't want the toy anymore. Not only it's not the novelty that wears off, it's the, oh my God, they don't know how to relate. So they're getting triggered, they're getting dysregulated, they're arguing with you, they're accusing you of stuff. And then maybe you get that intermittent reinforcement for a day or a week, and it's like, feels like love, seems like it's good, I think we're okay now, and then boom. No, you're that sort of like, nah, I don't want the toy, I don't want it anymore. And they do that back and forth and back and forth. So just know, you can't satiate the borderline. By the way, you should check out a video I did on BPD affect hunger. It's not you, it's them. But how much does that help you to feel better? Because you really need to get into a healing recovery journey to heal from this. But just know the language of whether you're high value or somebody's low value, I think, is coming out of narcissistic culture, being applied to dating and relationships in ways that might make sense between people that aren't cluster B, like with a cluster B, but it doesn't make any sense in cluster B relationships or when you've been with a borderline, what that really means, what that really does to you, because these relationship breakups are the most painful in the world, and why borderlines do what they do is going to confound a lot of people for a long time. And the other thing I offer you, if you resonate with me and you want to work with me, I can answer any and every question anybody can come up with about borderline personality disorder, and I go super in depth and will answer any and all questions any client ever asks me. But in the meantime, please stop spinning the comparative narrative and wondering why this borderline that you promised everything to, you might have wanted to marry or you did marry, and then often they take off quickly after marriages, or baby comes along and then everything falls apart. Just know it's not you. It's not your fault. And getting into a healing recovery journey will help you. You need that to be able to learn, process, understand a myriad of things that will help you to know that it wasn't all your fault. Because the number one thing codependents always do is blame themselves, and harshly. Take care.